I'll be talking to you about how to use machine learning in chatbots and how to handle first-line technical support. I can see our today's expert on words and NLP. There will be not that much about this particular part. I will show you more practical engineering perspective on how to build chatbots and where to use them. So who am I to talk to you about this? I'm a data solution architect at Microsoft. My role is to help customers in their journey into the cloud in this particular situation. This cloud is Azure. And I cover everything connected with data, starting from databases through machine learning, advanced analytics, and cognitive services. And bots are now a big hype. So I will talk a little bit about this and what's my opinion on the hype. We'll talk about what chatbot is, where to use it, how to build one, and what are available tools, because nowadays everything is at some point a third-party thing that you can grab and use in your system. And at the end, a little bit on how to apply AI to chatbots, how to apply machine learning concepts, and how to enhance your conversations as a service. So what is a chatbot? If I would ask you a question, what would you say a chatbot is? Come on. What's a chatbot? I will move you a little bit, but I will answer this question myself. So chatbot has two components in the name. One is chat component, and second is bot. So it's a machine, it's a bot that can chat. Wasn't very difficult, right? So what are we expecting nowadays from chatbots to be? And what I find when I talk to my customers, when I talk to my colleagues, to people at events like this is, we're expecting this. We're expecting something that is human life. We are obsessed with making machines to look like us, to sound like us, to mimic our behaviors. Who knows what's the movie? Who knows the movie? It's Blade Runner. And this is actually a scene from a Turing test that Harrison Ford, one of my favorite actors, is trying to decide, he's trying to test if this particular person is a replicant, because being a replicant is a felony those days. So I always ask the question, why would anyone make a replicant? I know it's cool, I know it's fun, you're creating a life and then this life is gaining consciousness. So from a personal perspective, it's a great achievement. But how useful is this in your production system? So I found another movie when I actually found a production usage of chatbots, of machines that provide some kind of a text messaging usefulness. And this was C3PO. C3PO was an etiquette robot. I don't really actually know what it means, because I don't think he did this in Star Wars. He was moving around, and I still don't know why a translator has to be of the shape of the robot. Why didn't you have a laptop or a tablet or something that could translate from one language to the other? But that's fine. I think him being a robot actually moved him into a lot of troubles rather than get his abilities. And there is this creepy thing. This is a British show. People create robots to become their companions. And I know it's a movie. I know it's... I'm picking up on some people's creativity, but this particular actress, I don't remember her name, but I watched a TV program with her. She went into some research facility, and they were actually making a robot that looked like her and sounded like her, and with the mimic stuff. So what does it have to do with actual chatbots? Why would you, having a company, hiring someone like me or paying for some consultancy like me, I'm coming to you from Microsoft and I'm trying to convince you to build a chatbot. Why would you even use it? What do you think? What is the point?
Possibly for marketing purposes?
Marketing, saving money. Yes, but why chatbot? How chatbot would actually help you? Why do you need a machine on the other side of the conversation? Why don't we keep to human conversations? Reduce costs, scale, repetitive tasks. Consistency. So, yes? Sorry? Advice. That, see? Nothing to do with robots, nothing to do with mimicking human behavior. We want human-like.
Automate the process.
Something that machines are very good, automating, right? So we have some stuff that can be repeated, that can be scaled, and we don't have to pay people to do it. So another TV show, one of my favorite TV shows, which is IT Crowd, kind of made a chatbot in one of their episodes. I think it was the first episode. So in my experience, I will go back to this story because this is what all this presentation will talk about. Is it was a customer service. So if you're at service desk, you get crazy with the same questions repeated again and again and again. And what humans do when they get all the same questions again and again and again? They go nuts, they go crazy. And machines are patient. Machines don't have feelings yet. I'm sorry, machine, if you get consciousness. I don't want to offend you. But this is the thing. We don't have to pay people to do the job that get them crazy. So few of the use cases I picked up from my daily job where you could use chatbots is FAQ pages. Instead of forcing users to search through the page and see what were the questions asked and see for the answers, you could provide them with a very nice interface, which is a conversation. This also applies to stuff like Alexa, Cortana, Siri. So basically, you're asking a question, they retrieve the information and try to find it out somewhere, very often in some search engine. And if you have a scripted scenario, if you have a scenario when a human being is supposed to seek, oh, this person asked this question, so I go to this page and reply with that, this is also something that can be automated. So how to build something like this? First of all, you need a user. So users come to, well, let's say for now, your system, whatever this would be, and they want to ask you a question, they want to talk, they want to find out some information. So you need to have some messaging system that can get this information and can reply to you. Getting this information can go through writing, can be a voice recognition thing. It's just a matter of UI. Something needs to take your message and perform some tasks, process this message. And then, actually, from the beginning, it needs to be something more. Your client is not just sending API requests, which basically this part is API requests. They need to go through some messaging system. So very often you're either embedding it in your application, offering a chat on your website, or you're configuring your system to talk to the people through stuff like Skype, like Messenger, like SMSs, or even emails. So you need an infrastructure that allows users to come to your system through some other system, so some other messaging system, which is the one that has all the infrastructure. And there are a lot of chatbot platforms. There is Microsoft, which I will show you in a second. There is Facebook, RebotMe, InPerson, ChatScript, PandoraBots, and tons of others. All of them are offering you something like this. In different ways, with different maturity level, and You know, notice that I haven't mentioned anything about artificial intelligence because chatbots can be very, very simple. How simple? Like this.
Hello, IT.
Something's wrong with my computer.
Have you tried turning it off and on again?
No. Oh dear, thanks.
You're welcome, then. Hello, IT.
Try turning it off and on again and nothing happens.
Is it definitely plugged in?
Let me have a look. Oh, sorry, that's it. Thanks very much.
You're welcome, then.
So you know what? I went through the scenario and I cracked the code. So I wrote a chatbot that could do it. It won't be this fancy answering machine, but I will show you how to talk to the chatbot and do exactly what they did. Why did they do it? Because they were going crazy with people asking them the same question that had the same answer. All the code is available on GitHub, so if you want to have a look, just do it. What I am using is a Microsoft bot framework, and if you're creating your project either in Visual Studio like me at the moment, or you can do it in Node.js, you have the basic architecture, and what you have to do is just get the message that comes to your system and decide what to reply. So this is the method, that is a post method, that gets the activity. Activity, you need to think of it not just as a message, because it can be like a picture, it can be some other stuff, but let's focus on the messages for the time being. This is the code that I have to handle the message. And basically what happens here is this line of code. I'm getting my activity text here, and I'm getting the answer. So this is my activity text. The rest of the code is to just save and retrieve the state of the client, because my algorithm is very simple. If someone talks to my IT, the chatbot should say, hello, IT. Someone probably then will say, my computer is broken, so my chatbot should respond, have you tried to turn it off and on again? And I will show you that, how does it work. I'm running my chatbot locally on my machine. And I have something that is called Microsoft Bot Framework Emulator. So hopefully you will see it. I'm saying hello. Hello, IT. My computer is broken. Have you tried to turn it off and on again? Oh, no, I will do it now. You're welcome then. Very simple algorithm. You probably could do it without almost any if statement, but we know there is a plot twist. There was a lady saying, oh, actually I tried it and it didn't work. So let's try this scenario. Hi, hello IT. My computer broke. Have you tried to turn it off? And then go, yes, it didn't work. Is it definitely plugged in? Oh, that must be it. You're welcome then. So I built a chatbot that, if I didn't tell you, could really pretend to be something intelligent. But it really is not, because it doesn't matter what I wrote there. It has a scripted scenario. So if I say, what's the weather, or something completely unconnected, it still would reply with those messages. And even the if, I will show you the if statement. I will stop it now. How do I decide if someone said, oh, it worked or it didn't work? It's a very, very ugly piece of code. I did it on purpose. If it contains no, it means someone tried it. Someone hasn't tried it. If it contains yes, it means someone tried it and it did work. It doesn't even capture anything in between. So if you want to break it, get the code, try it out, break it, and think of a better way how to do it. What are the limitations? let's go back to the presentation. What are the limitations of this particular approach? Well, you could easily go off script. If you have some steps and your users are not following them, you're screwed. So retrieving the information of, to put any if statement, if you're using, I don't know, regular expressions or some stupid, very silly code that I just did, basically doesn't work. It will work with very, very simple scenarios. There are scenarios like this, and some chatbot frameworks are showing them to you to show you how easily you can use the chatbot. But if you think of anything more complex, it just won't work. But you can think of chatbots that are, for example, listing you the answers. And if you provide the users with hero cards or with closed list of answers, you can go very far. No machine learning needed. So there is always a threat of users go off script because users can still write some answers. But there is a very simple way to do it. If someone goes off script, you have one if statement and you try it on and on again. So you can go a long way. So what does it have to do with this big hype and mimicking human behavior? It has a lot to do with natural language processing. And this is a huge area. And if you are, and I know there are some natural language processing people here, don't hate me, I will just give a brief, very vague review on how you can do it. What you can achieve with natural language processing. One thing that you can achieve, not very well still, but you can, is creativity, what I like to call with machines. So you write some text and the machine is trying to have a conversation with you. But unless you want to build a chatbot that you can talk to about the meaning of life or how is it to be a robot or something like this, this is not very useful. In most of production applications, you need something that is retrieving the information from what you as a user is saying, and very often hard-coded responses. If the user said something like this, if the users wanted to ask about the weather, give them the answer about the weather, search in some search engine, and come back with the response. The response part is not machine learning, is not natural language processing. The retrieving information from the user is. So how is it done in this particular approach in bot framework that I'm showing you? It's based on classification problem. What is a classification problem? Very simple explanation because I don't have much time. So classification problem. Something that gets the examples. It's a supervised learning, so you need to have labels. Labels are, in our particular example, if the news is fake or is it real. Let's say we have those. Then there is some processing of this text. This is the major, big, huge task. So I'm simplifying it to 2 arrows. It's not that simple. But let's say we have something or someone or the whole team to process this. And then we have some machine learning process that learns, based on those labels, which text, which articles are fake or real. Again, it's very simple explanation, just explaining the concept of what classification is. Basically, you have some training data, labels, machine learning process. Once you're happy with your results, you want to publish your model. You want to publish something that will be able to classify new examples. So let's say you have another article and you're wondering, is it fake or is it real? You need to publish it at some point. Very often it's done by publishing some REST API. And what has classification to do with chatbots, with text processing? So first of all, you can classify the whole text. In terms of articles, you could think of classifying the field the article is, or some probabilities which field the article can be assigned to. when we think specifically about the conversation with the chatbot, you could think of an intent. What is the user actually asking? Does he want to order the pizza, or does he want a refund, or is he asking about the weather? So this is applying a label to the context of our conversation. And another classification problem is retrieving the information. Going back to the pizza example, what's your address? We need to know the actual address. What's your name? What's the topping you want on your pizza? What's the size of the pizza? Do you want any sides? So those particular things you need to know to well, basically do something with that conversation if you just don't want to have it hang around. And where in our architecture can we apply this intelligence, this machine learning? Well, when we're processing the message. When we have the message, then we can use this machine learning. Once we have this model published somewhere, we can ask our model, oh, is this user asking about the pizza, or is it asking about the weather, or just generally saying hi? And then, once we have it, once we have the information, the entities that it extracted from the conversation, we could process this message and we can produce the answer. In terms of bot framework, we have a cognitive service called Lewis, and I will show you that in a second when I will be showing you the whole demo. So let's apply intelligence to the IT crowd answering machine. Let's make it more intelligent. Let's make it, well, less breakable. You can still break it because it's a very simple example still, but it will be a little bit harder. This is my Lewis tech support project. And you can see stuff like here. Can you see it? Is it visible? Stuff like intents. And I would like to only talk about intents and entities today. So I have a few intents. In my scenario, when you come to my chatbot, well, you know what? Let's try it. I have it open, so. Hi. Need to wait for a second or two. No. Hello, IT. How can I help you? My computer doesn't work. Oh. Did you try to turn it off and on again? Yes. Great, and what is the result? Because it didn't say, well, it didn't work, it worked, or I just said yes. We are expecting the person doesn't know the result. Well, it still doesn't work. Okay, noted. Could you give me your name and employee ID so we could schedule the repair? Okay, my name is Anna Brown, and my ID is 123 ABC. See? All the information here. That the computer is the thing that is broken. My name and my employee ID. And you know what? I could say like bye. It recognizes bye. I could say thanks. And it recognizes, no, it doesn't recognize it. So I even put the intent there, or I actually put a handler there. If you don't recognize what I trained you for, just say you didn't get that. Do you want to start over? Do you want to ask again? So I could say like, hi. The whole conversation starts over. This time it takes less time because of the first booting thing. You could put, based on intents, and rebooting functionality in your chatbot. Because very often you're thinking this is the script that the user will follow, but the user doesn't follow, so you could do a lot with your intent. So let's go back to what intents are. I have few intents. I have an intent that is hello, that is bye, that we've seen. I have an intent that is details. I have an intent that says just no or yes, which is different than not working. So let's go to the not working intent. I have 13 utterances, which are my training data, my basic examples. So I've put some of them, like my computer stopped working, my email app just disappeared, my email just disappeared, something broke. And you can see no computer, no emails. There is just something that is called broken item, which is, in this case, an entity that the chatbot, that Lewis is supposed to extract. And for the learning purposes, it doesn't matter what's there. It's just saying, in this place in the sentence, you're expecting something that is a broken item. What else you could do? You could add a new utterance, like, I don't know what happened. Something broke. And you can see, oh, actually, my chatbot says this is 87% that this the sentence would be classified as a not working intent. And if you are going to ask me how they are doing this, I have absolutely no idea. I mean, there are papers there, and you could talk to the product group people, but it kind of works how me as a human being is expecting it to work. So when I'm going to like intents, yes, I want to lose the changes, with hello and bye, I've added like 11 stuff. Like, hello, I have a problem, good evening, hi there. I'm pretty sure if I didn't even put this many, it could recognize it. Like when I've put howdy, it probably would recognize that I mean the hello intent. Either because I've named my intent hello, or I don't know, but there are some smart people working on this API, and there are some already pre-trained, pre-prepared stuff that you could use. So this is the machine learning part. We have our intents, we have our entities, and how can you use it in your system? And if I go back to the code, this is a different code. I will show you the message controller. Remember, there were like 5, 6 lines of code. Now I just have one. So what I'm doing is, I'm saying, if you get the message, move it through the Lewis dialog. And Lewis dialog is an SDK for Lewis cognitive services. So what you have to do is, you have to have a class, and you need to inherit from Lewis dialog. And then you just put your intent as an attribute to your method. And whenever a user is saying something that fits this intent the most, so it got classified to this intent, it jumps into this method. And you could think, oh, that's awesome. This resolved this if thinking, if problems. It doesn't. You still need if. And I will show you the example of not working. Remember, the first time we asked the person, if it's not working, did you try to turn it off and on again? And if I then further in the conversation say, yes, I did, but it still didn't work, it recognizes as the same intent. But we cannot again reply, did you try to turn it off and on again? We need to try to either asking, okay, so what was the result, or schedule the repair. So I have this if statement here. If it's not working, get the entity that is broken, and come back with the information, with the question if they try to turn it off and on again. But if it's later in a conversation, then you need to respond differently. So you're not saved from ifs, but your code is much clearer. Your conversation becomes more natural. And I have, as you can see, some of those intents here. For example, if someone just says yes in my conversation, I have if statement again. So if someone just says yes, and I'm in the state of the conversation when I just ask them if they try to turn it off and on again, I need to ask, okay, what was the result? Because I don't know. But if someone says yes in any other stage of the conversation, well, it could be anything. It could be just someone saying yes, or it could be answering some other question. So if your conversation is more complex, you need to have separate if statements for this yes intent, unless you try to think of a different intent. But if we go back to the presentation, have it kind of summarized, you cannot prevent your users from saying hi, bye, I don't know, thanks, as I shown you in one example. You will always encounter the situation of common phrases and, well, hello if statements in them. There is still script in your head when you're creating this conversation. Intents are not saving everything. They are making the conversation better, more human-like, but it still requires a lot of planning, architecture, and engineering. And, of course, I've shown you the examples when I've put 11, 13 utterances to one class. Usually in classification process, you need much more. Lewis saves you from a lot of stuff because those people made it very easy, and actually you can have a working model after 5, 6 utterances, after 5, 6 examples of the class. But anyone that is serious about machine learning thinks it's kind of laughable because you almost never get situations where this is enough. So you need to train your Lewis model. It needs to be very well prepared to be production ready. So I encourage you to go to my code. If you were paying attention or go back to the video, this Skype bot is public, so you can use it. You can add it as well, your Skype contact. Anyone can do it. And you can play it, and you can break it, and you can then tweet me back. It's not like I don't know about some stuff that can be broken. I did them for a purpose of showing you how easily something can be broken, but also for the purpose of showing you that a lot of frameworks, a lot of third-party solutions, a lot of off-the-shelf, ready-to-use, just plugging it into your system stuff, just are not that easy. If you don't know what you're doing, if you're just prepared to use it as simple examples, they are not production ready. That's just the reality. And it can be very disappointing because you get excited about some technology, and you should be, because the technology is very useful and solves a lot of problems. But if you just want to grab it, take it, use it, it will give you some results. Will it be useful? Will it serve your purpose? Well, that's the question your business or you as a part of your business need to answer. So to summarize, I've shown you the examples of how the world hype thinks of chatbots and artificial intelligence. And I'm trying to encourage you, ask yourself a proper business question. Why would you use it? Why would this benefit your business? If you have 10 people on the phone, well, you will never scale them to 2 people, probably. If you have 100 people, you probably can scale them to 50 or to 20, because there will be always a situation when the chatbot just cannot handle. In this particular Blade Runner example, there was this eye shutting down at the end of Turing test because the lady couldn't find the answer to the question. So there will be always a moment when the chatbot does, I didn't get that. You know how the architecture looks like? It's not very complex, but it is complex in terms of engineering work. And if you can take advantage of already existing messaging systems and use the chatbot systems, they are also using messaging systems. Natural language processing is a very powerful tool, but it's also very complex. There is a reason why so many people are writing all of those research papers. It's not just something that magically can be used by using some plugin. There are APIs, there are third-party tools, but for example with Lewis, you need to train it, you need to know what you're doing, you need to know what intent is. Then you need to take this back to your system and just implement the word around it. And I've shown you 2 demos, and I encourage you to break them and come back to me with the results. So thank you very much for staying at this session, for coming to these sessions, and if you have any questions, yeah, I'm here.
Right. Thanks, Barbara. Anybody like to ask any questions? I'll start with one, if I may. At the end, you
I just want to use my chatbot and break it. Yeah, just do it.
But at the end, you were demonstrating mapping intents into effectively a state machine and progressing through that state, those series of states. Have you got a sort of meta layer, because there will be cultural differences in the states that conversations go through that you can apply that to?
So the intent of intents was to think that there is no state in a conversation. It's just, in my experience, there will always be states. So especially with yes, hello, and stuff like this. But also when you think of like, I don't know, pizza ordering, you may think people first will order a pizza and then sides, but they could also go the other way around. So one of the reasons of intents is if people are ordering sides, you should be able to handle it without those if statements. But if a user is just saying, I want chicken wings and I want pizza, you cannot, from the same phrase, I think this was one of the problems in the talk before lunch. In the same phrase, different entity, you cannot just guess the intent from it. Will there be differences in some cultures? For sure there will be. So you really need to think of it. But if any system you're building, you need to think of it. Like, I don't know, red is an alert error color in our Western culture. In Asia is the color of happiness. So those are sometimes basic stuff like this.
Thanks. Anybody else out there with a question?
Sure. I've got one quick question, because the examples we've seen so far were obviously about almost like a support and sales, and I was wondering, would you envisage that more in the business level, if you can have maybe some, in companies, some business question and the chatbot, I know, trying to bring back more business answers? What was how the company is doing, or what was the profit and so on?
So I don't want to go into which companies do what, but I work with retail companies mostly. So if you want to order something, instead of going through the web forms, actually Microsoft built a Skyscanner chatbot on Skype, so you could all use it, try it, break it. I know how to break it. It's not very difficult. The thing is, for me, for example, I would rather go through the web forms and fill them out and buy my ticket. But maybe I'm old and just not suited for the modern times, and young people prefer to chat. And the bot appeared to be very successful. So this is one kind of a business, I even gave you the name of the company, example, how chatbot replaced the forms, the filling forms. With breaking, on a breaking thing, if you want to buy a ticket, if you're breaking the chatbot is saying, well, let's start over, or I didn't get what you said, you're happy to rephrase this because your goal is to buy a ticket, and you'll just go through the conversation and do it. So it's not always about, oh, I will check if this is really human-like behavior. No, it's just another, for me, what I see in the companies, another UI, another entry point, different way of engaging your users. There are advisory chatbots also. If you want to, there is a retail company, let's say they sell clothes. And let's say you go to this chatbot and say, well, this actually can be something very, very sophisticated. I want to buy women's trousers in red. And this chatbot can go through your catalog and find all of the links to the clothes. So again, you don't have to go through the whole page, checking the boxes, because you can just ask one question. So this is another, as I said, entry point, another way of engaging users rather than going through the web page or an app.
Have you come across the scenario of testing different sales scripts using chatbots, and how successful have you found it? So, I want to try a more direct sales script for these set of customers and a softer approach for another set, and how do you feed the model in that scenario? Because it's obviously learned from your historical data and see what the successes are.
So I would use one of the A/B test frameworks, and just one group would talk to real people. Like as you could see in Skype, there is absolutely no difference. And from the user's perspective, right? You just need to name this chatbot differently. And one group, well, the rest of the users would be just directed to the chatbot. And you can even think of building your system in a way that when chatbot is saying, I don't understand, I cannot handle it anymore, maybe chatbots also have feelings, you redirect the conversation to the human being back again. So it's like with testing any functionality that you have. And the connectors to messaging platforms make it very easy for users to think it's actually the same functionality, right?
Okay, looks like we've reached the time for coffee there, so we'll just thank Barbara again.
Thank you.
And just to remind you that the final session starts at 3:30. In a change to the advertised program, the speaker at 3:30 up here is Peter Moore, who's got a very different perspective on data science, and he's going to talk about his experiences when he went to Iraq and ended up as a hostage rather than an SQL programmer. So I hope to see you back for that one.